Hi everybody, Patrick here from EscapeRoomElectronics.com and EngineeringShock.com. Today we're going to put together a troll, the Arduino audio pranker. If you want to know more about it, check out the link below. You'll see the Kickstarter campaign in the Kickstarter video. In any case, let me talk about the components here. We've got the circuit board, LDR light dependent resistor, 7805 5-volt regulator, 4 0.1 microfarad ceramic capacitors, 3mm red LED, 2 audio jacks, a 2N2222 NPN transistor, 2 22 picofarad ceramic capacitors. They are physically smaller than the 0.1s, 16 megahertz crystal, 10k ohm resistors, 2 1 microfarad electrolytic capacitor, electrolytic capacitors, 2 tactile push switches, 2 470 ohm resistors, an 8-pin header, 2 3-pin headers, 2 2-pin headers, 2 jumpers, a USB connector, male, power jack, 28-pin socket, dip, Atmega 328P, audio chip, 8-pin dip socket, 4-switch dip switch, a 2-pin terminal block, and 3 100 microfarad electrolytic capacitors. So first things first, let's solder our resistors in, and then we'll do our capacitors. On the board there's only 2 markings for 470 ohm resistors, right here, 470R, and right here, just to the left of the upper audio jack, 470R. All other resistors are labeled 10K. There's 10 of them. There's 2 here, 4 here, another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're all labeled 10K. I'll show you what the board looks like after I've soldered them all in. The 22 picofarad capacitors, again, they're very small. They go in these 2 slots right here, right above where the crystal's going to go, right below where the crystal's going to go, and the 4 0.1 microfarad ceramic capacitors, they're labeled 104, I believe, on them. They go in these little slots right here. There's one right here, 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 and just to the left of the crystal right here. So I'll pause it and I'll show you what the board looks like before we get on to the electrolytic capacitor. All of the electrolytic capacitors have a long lead and a short lead. This is very important. Long lead is positive, short lead is negative. All of the electrolytic slots on the board have a little tiny positive above the positive hole and minus sign above the negative hole. You might need a magnifying glass if you want to see them. I'm going to show you where to place them and what orientation. So the 2 1 microfarad electrolytic capacitors go here and here. They're not labeled. The 2 circular ports on the board. There's a little plus sign above the left holes and a minus sign above the right holes. So long lead on the left, short lead on the right. Don't reverse the polarity or else your circuit might not work properly. And that especially goes for the 100 microfarad electrolytic capacitors. They go here, here, and here. And again, there's a plus sign above the positive and a minus sign above the negative. So right here, and the leftmost capacitor, we want our long lead on the left, short lead on the right. And the capacitor just beside it, we want our long lead on the right, short lead on the left. Look for those plus and minus signs. And then we've got our last one right here. We want our long lead on the bottom, short lead on the top. So I'll solder them into place and you can see what the board looks like. Okay, so the headers. 2 3-pin headers, 2 2-pin headers, and 1 8-pin header. 8-pin header goes right here. First 3-pin header goes here. Second one goes right, where is it? Here, sorry. And the 2 2-pin headers go right here and right here. So what I like to do is I'm going to zoom out just for a second. I like to place the header in place, hold it with my nail, turn it upside down, splotch a little bit of solder on one of the leads to the point where it's actually going to hold itself in place, then turn it around, solder the other leads, and then touch up the original solder lead. That's how I do it. You might do it differently, but just a friendly tip. So I'll pause the video, and next we will solder in our crystal and our sockets. Okie dokie. Crystal oscillator goes right here in that little slot. Fits like a glove. The first socket, the 8-pin socket right here, the 28-pin socket right here. Note the orientation of the chips. I know we're looking at a black circuit board here, so it's a little bit hard to see, but there's a little notch on the left-hand side from this perspective on the footprint on the PCB for this socket. There's a little notch on the left-hand side of the socket. Line it up. Make sure that it's facing left. Same with the 28 pin socket footprint. There's a little notch right here on the left-hand side, and there's a notch on the left-hand side of the socket. So place it to the left, and that's going to help us note the orientation when we actually pop our chips in at the end of this video. So solder all 8 pins on the socket, all 28 pins on the 28-pin socket. Make sure there are no shorts, and next we will solder in our dip switch and our transistor. The NPN transistor has a flat side on the front with writing on it and a curved side on the back. As you can see, it's toddling back and forth there. It goes right here. You'll notice that it might be hard for you to see in the video, but when you're soldering this kit together, you'll notice that the footprint has a flat side in the back from this perspective, and the front is curved. So just make sure that when you line it up, that the curved side is facing the bottom of the board from this perspective, and the flat side is facing the two capacitors here. It's a very easy component to solder into place. Just make sure there are no shorts. The tactile buttons only fit in one way. They go right here and right here. Line up the pins, pop them into place, hold the buttons down, solder one pin on the underside of the board, make sure that it's sitting flat, and then solder the rest of the pins. Too easy. The LED, like the electrolytic capacitors, has a long pin and a short pin. Long pin is positive anode, and short pin is negative cathode. And from this perspective, it goes right here. Left pin to the left, or sorry, short pin to the left, long pin to the right. If you reverse that, your LED will not work. So solder those components into place, and next we will solder our jacks and our terminal block. The terminal block is too easy. There is a side with the terminals facing out, and the back side is just plastic. And we want to make sure that we solder the terminal block with the terminals facing outside of the board and the plastic facing the inside. And that goes right in here. Fits in perfectly. And the dip switch goes right here. Make sure the switches are facing down just like they are on the footprint. There's a little notch on the left hand side. There's a little notch here as well. There should be an on in the upper left hand corner from this perspective. Solder that into place. The two jacks go right here. What I like to do, and this will be a little bit difficult to show you on camera, is I like to take there's one pin in the front and 4 in the back. I line up the single pin in the front first, and then I push the pins in the back. Then I hold it upside down, add some solder right here, make sure that it's sitting properly in place, then I solder the rest of the pins. And repeat that for the second jack. The light dependent resistor goes right here. There's no polarity on this little component. Just solder it in, and you maybe leave the head of the sensor about at the height of the electrolytic capacitor right next to it. Power jack only fits one way, with the hole facing out. Hold it down with one finger, add a dab of solder to one of the pads, make sure it's sitting level, and then solder the rest of the pads, and then touch up the original pad. The 7805 5-volt regulator has a black side, which has writing on it, which is the front, and just a white grayish side on the back. That goes right here, with the black side facing the front of the board, and the white side facing the back of the board. And there's a little bit of a white backing indicator on it. So again, just make sure that you solder it in the right way, because if you reverse it, you won't be able to power your board correctly, and you'll blow up the regulator. So once we're done all of those components, we'll do the final component, which is the USB, and then we'll pop our chips in. The USB component has two little bumps on the plastic on the underside. You get it very gently with a flathead screwdriver. You don't want to bend any of the pins. So just pop. Hopefully you can see this. Pop those two little plastic pads off, and then what you want to do is take the board, very gently massage the component into place. Now what I'll do is I'll hold it solder, add a batted dab of solder to both sides, make sure that it's sitting flat, then I'll solder the two power pins and the 2 data pins. If you're using USB to power the board, you need to make sure that this 5-volt header is not shorted, but if you're using either the terminal block, battery connector, or the AC power adapter to power the board, then you're going to want to pop a jumper on that 2-pin header, and that allows for 9 volts to be regulated down to 5 volts to power the board. If you're using the external audio jacks, you want to short EX. It's on the main board. You want to short the 2 bottom pins from this perspective. If you're going to be connecting your speaker and not external audio, then short the SP pins, which are the middle and top from this perspective. Your speaker plugs in here. Your external trigger, if you choose to use one, goes here. There's a ground connection, a 5-volt connection, and an input. The audio chip has a notch on the left, as you can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to gently massage in the bottom pins with the notch facing left, and then I'll push the top pins in. Same thing with the Atmega chip. There's a notch on the left. There's a notch on the left-hand side of the socket facing the blue terminal block. Massage the bottom pins in, then push the top pins in. Just be careful not to damage your chips. And there you have it, a fully assembled Troll. Again, if you haven't already, check out the Kickstarter campaign. I don't imagine you'd be here this long if you weren't part of the Kickstarter campaign. So thank you all for your support. Thanks for watching. Only a couple days left in the campaign, so please do consider sharing this campaign. It really helps me out. Have a great day, everyone.